In this video, we're diving deep into the essential grammar rules you need to ace the SAT. Whether it's basic concepts or tricky rules, I've got you covered. In this video, we're gonna be covering 7 type of grammar rules, which is the complete grammar course rules of the SAT English section, and we'll break down each rule with easy, medium and hard questions, so you'll be fully prepared for anything the SAT throws your way. Stick around till the end. This could be the game changer for your SAT score. Let's get started. Alright, in this type, there are two types of scenarios, singular and plural. If we have a singular subject, our verb will also be singular. Whereas if we have a plural subject, our verb will also be plural. So let's see the easy example. Alright, so let's look at this easy example. Alright, then we'll move on to medium one and then the hard one. Okay, and then the next type. Alright. American poet Emily Dickinson wrote many of her poems on scraps of paper. Alright, we are talking about poems, okay? But she also took steps to collect these works. These works. So we've got a hint here. Works is a plural, alright? So we're gonna expect for a plural. From 1858 to 1864, for example, she copied more than 800 of dash into 40 homemade booklets. Alright, now we already know that works is plural, so we're gonna expect a plural here. So let's look at the answer choices. 800 of them. Yeah, this seems correct. This, no, this is wrong. That, this is also wrong. It, this is also wrong. These three are stand for singular, whereas them stands for plural, and this is the correct answer. Alright, so the next example, which is of medium difficulty, alright, so the human brain is primed, alright, they're talking about human brain, okay, which is a singular, is primed to recognize faces, so much so that due to a perceptual tendency called pareidolia, dash will even find faces in clouds, wooden doors, pieces of fruits, and other faceless inanimate objects. Okay, we don't even need to read the rest of this, okay? We already know that we're talking about a singular subject. So dash, what will come we will be expecting here? We will be expecting a singular, okay? Perceptual tendency called pareidolia, dash will even find faces. What will even find faces? It will. Okay, so let's just match this with our answer choices. Okay, she, no, this is wrong. She is used for living beings, all right? So they, no, they is plural. We are talking about singular here. This is incorrect. It, yes, this is the correct one. Those, this is the same. This is for plural. We're looking for singular here, and it is correct. Alright, so let's now move on to the hardest example, okay? This is the hard one, okay? So, when they were first discovered in Australia in 1798, duck-billed beaver-tailed platypuses so defied categorization that one scientist assigned them the name Orni. Alright, let's just don't even read this name because we don't need to, okay? It'll waste time. Paradoxical bird snout, the animal which lays eggs. Okay, they told us here that the animal. Now, animal here is showing that we're talking about a singular subject, okay? So let's see. Which lays eggs but also nurses dash young with milk has since been classified as belonging to the monotremes group. Alright, so let's match a singular object, a singular subject with our answer choices. We're expecting what here? We're expecting a singular one, okay? So let's see. There, no, there is not a singular. It is standing for plural, alright? There, no, this is also incorrect. It's, yes, this seems correct, and this also seems correct. Now I'm gonna tell you one thing. Now, why this question was hard? Because they have these two things which look similar. Now, okay, the biggest question is that which one to choose. Okay, I'll tell you this. Okay, it apostrophe s stands for it is, all right? So when we place this in our blank here, the animal which lays eggs but also nurses, it is young with milk. Does this make any sense? No, this does not. All right, so this one is also wrong. It's, this one will be used, so the correct answer is C. Alright, moving on to type 2, that is matching patterns. Alright, so nouns, verbs and tenses must be the same within a sentence in this type. Alright, so basically what we're gonna do is that we're gonna look for clues, alright, and the clues can be nouns, verbs or tenses, alright, and we're gonna make them same. Okay, so let's move on to the first example, the easiest example. Alright, so moving on to the first example, which is the easier one. Alright. In the late 1960s, inspired in part by the sight of laundry hanging on a clothesline, African American abstract painter Sam Gillian began to create his iconic drape paintings. He applied, okay, he applied bold saturated hues. Alright, so this is a clue. They already told us that applied, he applied ed. Ed stands for past tense. So this is a past tense sentence. Alright, he applied. Now, what we're gonna expect in our blank? We're gonna expect a past tense word. Okay, he applied bold saturated hues to large canvases and dashed them from ceilings or walls. We don't even have to read this all. We just are expecting a past tense word here. All right, so let's go through the answer choices. To have suspended, no, this is wrong. Suspending, no. Is he suspending? No, he is not. To suspend, will he suspend? No, this is also wrong. Suspended, this is in past tense. This is our correct answer. Alright, so moving on to the next question, which is of medium difficulty. Let's see. By the time Hawaiian king Kamehameha III dashed the throne, okay, the number of, they haven't given us a clue right now. All right, so let's read further. The throne, the number of longhorn cattle first introduced to the islands in 1793 had drastically increased. All right, the throne, the number of longhorn cattle first introduced. Alright, so they gave us our first clue here. First introduced, ed. Introduced. They already introduced, alright? This is in past tense. Had drastically increased. Alright, another clue, increased, past tense. And so too had the need for Paniolo Hawaiian cowboys to manage the wild herd that then roamed throughout the volcanic terrain. So what are we gonna expect here? We're gonna expect a past tense word. By the time Hawaiian king Kamehameha III dashed the throne, ascended. Yes, this one is correct because it's in past tense. Although let's look at the other answer choices. Will ascend? No, this is wrong. Ascend? No, this is also wrong. Is ascending? No, this is also wrong. So A is the correct answer. Alright, so moving on to the next example, which is the hardest one, okay, hard difficulty. Planetary scientist Bryony Horgan and her colleagues have determined that as much as 25% of the sand on Mars is composed of impactful spheres. These spherical bits of glass form when asteroids collide. Now, collide here is our clue, okay? So this acts as a clue, and in which tense it is? It is in present tense. It's not in past tense. If it was collided here, then it would have been in past tense. Okay, so let's see. With the planet ejecting bits of molten rock into the atmosphere that, after cooling and solidifying into glass, dash back onto Mars' surface. So what are we gonna expect here? We're gonna expect a present tense word. Okay, to rain. Okay, it's gonna rain? No, this is incorrect. Alright. Raining? No, this is also incorrect. Having rained? No, this is also incorrect. Rain. Okay, this is pretty similar to collide. Alright, so this is the correct answer choice. Before moving on to the next type, please don't forget to subscribe and share the video because it helps me a lot, and also it'll help the people whom you'll share the video with. Alright, moving on to the next type, which is modifiers. For me, I think personally this is the easiest type, and this question takes me the least amount of time. I'll show you how. The subject must come immediately after the modifier. Okay, so in this type of question, we just have to look for the subject and boom, we get the answer. Alright, so let's see the example. Alright, moving on. This is the medium difficulty question. Alright, far from being modern inventions. Okay, so what are they talking about? Far from being modern inventions dash more than 5,000 years ago. Far from being modern inventions, they're talking about modern inventions. Okay, what is modern inventions? What, this is a modifier, and what are they describing? All right, let's see. Sumerians in ancient Mesopotamia used drinking straws. Sumerians, are they talking about Sumerians, the people? No, this is wrong. Drinking straws were used by Sumerians in ancient Mesopotamia. Yes, they are talking about this invention, drinking straws. So this one is correct. Although let's also see the other answer choices. The use of drinking straws, this is incorrect. Ancient Mesopotamia was home, this is also incorrect. So they're talking about this subject and it'll come immediately after the modifier. Okay, so this one's correct. Alright, so moving on to the hardest example of this type. Okay, known as Earth's living skin, Biocrusts are thin layers of soil held together by surface-dwelling microorganisms such as fungi, lichens, and cyanobacteria, fortifying soil in arid ecosystems against erosion. Dash. Okay. A recent study. All right. So let's see the answer choices. So they're talking about known as Earth's living biocrusts. All right. They're talking about biocrusts here. Although let's look at the answer choices. Fortifying soil in arid ecosystems against erosion. Dash. A recent study estimates is that these crusts reduce global dust emission by 60%. Okay, a recent study. Are we talking about a recent study? Let's see. Fortified soil in arid ecosystems against erosion. A recent study. Okay, let's see the other answer choices. An estimated 60% reduction. No, this is also wrong. These crusts reduce global dust emission. Alright, this one is also wrong. Why a recent study? Because we aren't talking about a recent study. We're talking about these crusts, these biocrusts. Alright, so this one, let's also rule this one out. This one's also incorrect. These crusts. Now this is talking about the crusts. Now this is correct. These crusts reduce global dust emission by an estimated 60% each year, according to a recent study. So this one's correct. A recent study has estimated that these crusts. No, this is also wrong. We're not talking about study here. We're talking about the crusts. All right. Alright, so moving on to the next example. Alright, these type of questions were a bit easy, and I couldn't find out an easy one at the moment, so I thought of doing two harder ones. Alright, so I hope you people won't be having a problem, and if you people are like learning a lot from this, please don't forget to subscribe and share it to other people so that they can also take advantage of this. And also, if you want more content like this, please comment down below. And so let's get started with this example. In the canon of North African literature, Moroccan author Driss Karabi's 1954 novel The Simple Past looms large. Alright, a coming of age story, a social meditation. Okay, so what are they talking about? They're talking about this novel. Alright, a coming of age story, a social meditation, and a sober gaze into the dark maw of French colonialism. Dash interrogates systematic power with memorable intensity. Okay. Okay, so let's see the answer choices. Morocco gained its independence 2 years before the Politician turned up. Which no, this is incorrect. We're not talking about the state Morocco. Okay, we're talking about the novel. This is incorrect. Charles Dibbett novel published 2 years before Morocco gained its independence. This is correct. Why? Because we're talking about the novel here. A coming of age story, a social meditation, and a sober gaze into dark. What is all this? What is this sentence describing? It is describing the novel. Alright, so this one is correct. Alright, so moving on to the next type. Alright, moving on to the next type, which is commas. Now we're gonna get started with some types which are a bit tricky, but trust me, when I teach you this, it's not gonna be difficult for you anymore, and you're gonna solve it really quick. Alright, so commas. Alright, so commas, there are two scenarios. So commas come between an independent and a dependent clause, or a dependent or an independent clause. Alright, and the next scenario, okay, first of all, what is a dependent clause? Dependent clause is a clause which does not make sense on its own, which is dependent on another clause, okay, which does not have a subject, verb, and object, okay, whereas an independent clause is the opposite. Okay, moving on, another scenario where comma is used, it is used between two independent clauses. However, there's a certain condition. The condition is that fanboys must be used in between those independent clauses and a comma. What is fanboys? Fanboys is an acronym for F for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So this is an acronym to remember it. Okay, let's move on to the first example. Alright, so moving on to the first example, which is the easiest one. Okay, okay, so our main aim here would be to recognize the sentence which is before the blank and after the blank. Okay, and it will become really simple for you. In 2000, Nora D. Hoyos Comstock, herself an owner of a successful consulting firm, sought to increase Latin representation in corporate settings. What is this? This is a solid independent clause because it has an object, verb, and subject, and it can stand on its own. All right, let's see what is the sentence after the blank. founded Las Comunidades para she founded Las Comunidades para las Americas, an international community that for over 2 decades has served as a source and information network for Latina business professionals. Now, this is also a solid independent clause because it makes sense on its own. So, what are we looking for? We're looking for a full stop, or we're also looking for fanboys plus a comma, all right, a combination of these two, because we studied before that we can only join two independent clauses by a combination of fanboys and a comma. All right, so let's see. Settings she, this is wrong. Settings she, here is only a comma. If one was independent and the other was dependent, then this would be correct, but here this is wrong. Settings and she, this is wrong. And settings she, okay, we have got a full stop here, so this is correct. Alright, so moving on to the next example, our medium difficulty one. Humans were long thought to have begun occupying. Okay, so I'll give you a big advice here, that don't even read the first sentence if there's a full stop, because this sentence isn't even gonna help us decide the type of sentences before and after the blank, because our main aim here is to decide what type of sentence, a dependent or an independent clause, is comes before a dash and after a dash. Alright. However, a team led by anthropologist Dr. Richard Berger used accelerator mass uh, to uncover evidence that is occupied dash that is occupied earlier. Okay, so what is this? This is an independent clause. Don't get confused by however, because here's a comma here. Okay, a team led by anthropologist Dr. Richard Berger used accelerator mass to uncover evidence that it was occupied earlier. So this is an independent clause. Okay, so let's see what comes after this blank. In 1420 CE, according to Berger, humans were likely inhabiting the area. Okay, so what is this? This is also an independent clause because it's making sense on its own. For example, in 1420 CE, according to Berger, humans were likely inhabiting the area. Okay, this is an independent clause. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so there are two independent clauses, and what are we looking for? We're looking for a combination of fanboys and a comma. Okay, this combination. Let's see. Earlier full stop in, okay, this can work. Okay, this can work. All right, so let's see the next one. Earlier in, this is wrong, because if there was an independent and a dependent, then this would be correct. Earlier, which in, which fanboys, no, this is wrong. Which is not a fanboys, this is wrong. Earlier in, this will give a runoff error, so this is also incorrect, and this is the correct answer. All right, moving on to the next example, which is the hardest one. Okay, so in paleontology, okay, again, the big tip was that don't even read the sentence before the dot, because it won't help us judge whether these two sentences are these two clauses are dependent or independent. Okay, so let's start from here. Like an Elvis impersonator who might bear a striking resemblance to the late musical icon Elvis Presley himself, and Elvis Dickinson is not the real thing. However, okay, so what does this seem like to you? Like an Elvis impersonator who might bear a striking resemblance to the late musical icon Elvis Presley himself, and Elvis Texan is not the real thing. Okay, so this is a bit tricky, but don't worry. Okay, my tip is to read the sentence over like once or twice and see if it makes sense. All right, and we'll do the same. Like an Elvis impersonator who might bear a striking resemblance to the late musical icon Elvis Presley himself, and Elvis Texan is not the real thing. All right, so this perfectly makes sense on its own. Here they gave an example and told what they want us to know. Okay, and this is an independent clause, and now let's see the clause after it. All right, however, but it is a misidentified look. Okay, it it is the main thing here, so we'll start reading from here. Okay, it is a misidentified look alike. Okay, this is also an independent clause because it is a misidentified look alike. It's making sense on its own. Okay, so let's see the answer choice. So there are two uh, independent clauses. So we're looking for a combination of fanboys and a comma. All right, or we are looking for a full stop. Let's see. However, but it is a misidentified look-alike. This is wrong because it contains fanboys. B here stands for but it does not contain a comma, so this is incorrect. However, it is a misidentified look-alike. This is also wrong because here's no comma here or fanboys. This is wrong. However, it is a misidentified look-alike. Alright, this is also incorrect because we're talking about two independent clauses here, and this scenario stands for a dependent or and an independent clause, but we don't have an independent or a dependent clause here. We have two independent clauses, so this is incorrect here. And however, full stop, it is a misidentified lookalike. This is perfectly correct. Alright, guys, before moving on to the next type, please don't forget to subscribe. And I'm putting in a lot of effort. And if you people want more videos like this, please comment down below the type of video you want, and I'll be replying to your comments. So let's get on to the next type. Alright, moving on to the next type, which is the type 5, colon and semicolon. Alright, so a colon must follow an independent clause. A colon always comes after an independent clause. Alright, just remember this. And whereas a semicolon equals to full stop, it functions exactly like a full stop, a period. Alright, so let's move on to the first example. Alright, so our first example here is the easiest one. About 70,000 meteorites have been found on Earth, okay? Although most meteorites are fragments of asteroids. Okay, what is this? This is a dependent clause, because although here makes this sentence a dependent clause, because this doesn't make sense on its own. Why? Because it doesn't have a subject, verb, and an object, okay? It's missing one of the three, okay? Although most meteorites are fragments of asteroids, okay? Dash hundreds have been identified as being from the moons or Mars. Several hundreds have been identified as being from the moon or Mars. Okay, several hundred have been identified from being identified as being from the moon or Mars. Now, what is this? This is an independent clause, because this makes sense on its own. Okay, so let's see. We've got a dependent clause here and an independent clause. Okay, so let's see. Asteroids dot full stop. No, this is incorrect. Why? Because if the one is dependent and the other is independent, if the both were independent, then this would be correct. All right, so this is wrong, so this one will instantly get ruled out. Why? Because semicolon equals to full stop, as I told you before. Okay, so asteroids comma several. All right, this seems correct. Let's see this one though. Asteroids colon several. Now, first of all, let's see. This one will only be correct if we have an independent clause before this colon. Let's see. Although most meteorites are fragments of asteroids, is this an independent clause? No, this is a dependent clause, so we can't use a colon here, so this one's incorrect. The correct answer here is B. Alright, so moving on to the next question, which is of medium difficulty. According to Nomi, alright. So, according to Nomi Nakayama of the University of Edinburgh, the reason seeds from a dying dandelion appear to float in the air while falling. Okay, what is this? Is this a dependent or an independent clause? This is a dependent clause because it doesn't make sense on its own. Okay, let's see the clause after the dash. Is that their porous plums enhance drag, allowing the seeds to stay. Alright, is that this is also an independent clause because it doesn't make sense. It's starting from is. This is not a complete sentence. Okay, so these both are dependent clause, and when there are two independent clause, the biggest tip I'll give you is that rule out every other rule I told you and just use the one which doesn't have anything in front of it. Okay, so let's see. Falling, comma, rule this out, rule this out, rule this out, and falling, it doesn't have anything. Just choose this one. Okay, this is the biggest tip from me. Okay, which will save you a lot of time. And so please, guys, don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this in the future, and share this to other people as well. Alright, so moving on to the next example, which is the hardest one of this type. In a 2016 study, okay, we don't need to read this if there is a full stop before it. Let's see. No, there isn't any full stop, so we have to read this. In a 2016 study, Eastern Washington University psychologist Emani Ayali found that among the study participants who experienced frisson, okay, while listening to music, there was a one personality trait that they scored particularly high. Okay, particularly high on. Okay, high on. Now, what is this? This is an independent clause because it makes sense on its own. And if you don't get it, just read it once again quickly and you'll get it. Okay, this is easy. Don't worry. Okay, dash opens this to experience. Okay, on opens to experience. Okay, so what is this? This is a bit tricky. Uh, isn't it a dependent clause or an independent clause? Opens to experiences. Okay, this is a dependent clause, okay, because it doesn't make sense on its own. Okay, opens to experiences. What opens to experiences? We're not given a reference. Okay, so let's see, we've got an independent clause and a dependent clause, so we can't use a full stop here because we don't have two independent clause. This one's incorrect. High on. Okay, comma is also used for two independent clauses, so this is also in sorry, semicolon. Why do I pronounce it again and again as comma? This is semicolon, sorry guys. Okay, so this is also wrong here. Okay, high on opens to experience. Okay, this one is also incorrect because we don't have two dependent clauses here. Okay, so high on and colon. This is correct. Why? Because we've got an independent clause before this colon and a dependent clause after this colon, so this is perfectly fine. Alright guys, moving on to the next type, which is our second last type, possession. Okay, so possession is really simple, to be honest. Okay, there are two scenarios in this: a singular possession and a plural possession. Singular possession stands for whenever there's a single object. Okay, for example, Jonathan's book. Now, what is Jonathan's here? Jonathan is a single person. Now, it will come Jonathan apostrophe s because we're showing a singular thing here. Okay, a singular person here, whereas plural possession, for example, a teacher's lounge. Okay, a teacher's lounge. Now, what is teachers? Now, teacher's lounge is showing possession. However, teachers is plural. Okay, it stands for more than one teacher, so we'll write teachers and after s we'll write an apostrophe. Okay, so moving on to the first example. Alright, here's our first example, which is the easiest one. Okay, photographer Ansel Adams' landscape portraits are iconic pieces of American art. However, many of the dash of landscapes were intended not as art but as marketing. However, many of photographers' early photos, okay, of landscapes, okay, photos of landscapes. Now, uh, photos, this is wrong because photos is not showing possession of landscapes. Okay, this is wrong. Okay, photographers early photos. Okay, photographers early photos. Now, what are photos? Basically, photos are a thing of the photographers. So photos is a, so photographers is a possession. Photos and photographers are linked. All right, so photographers early photos, this is also wrong because we need an apostrophe has here, not here. Okay, so photographers early photos, this is correct because photographers is showing possession of the photos here. All right, this is correct. Alright guys, moving on to the next example here. Oglala Lakota poet Lailis Long Soldier's Star quilt poems offers an unusually open-ended reading experience. With dash 8 panels of text stitched together in the shape of a traditional 8-pointed Lakota star quilt, the poems present viewers with a seemingly infinite number of ways to read them. Okay, so with dash 8 panels of text stitched together. Okay, what are we talking about here? Ogala Lakota poet Lally Long Soldier Star quilt poems offer an unusually open-ended reading experience. We're talking about the quilt poems here, and poems is a plural here. All right, so we're gonna be expecting a plural thing here. Okay, so let's see. With their 8 panels. Okay, this seems correct because it's standing for plural. All right, with its 8 panels. No, it's not singular, we're talking about multiple poems. Okay, with their 8 panels, there stands for they, apostrophe re stands for they are, so we won't be using they are here because it doesn't make sense. With its, no, it's not singular, so it's not this one. So A is the correct answer. Alright guys, so the next example, the hardest one, the artistic talents of Barbara Chas Ribaud, most known for her 1979 historical novel Sally Hemings and the conversation it inspired, dash limited to the realm of prose. She first excelled in sculpture, where her affinity for bronze, a material she described as timeless due to its use across eras and cultures, became part of her artistic identity. Okay, so the all right, what do we have in our answer choices here? Hasn't been, wasn't, isn't, aren't. Okay, so what are we talking about here? The artistic talents of Barbara Chase Ribaud. So we are talking about talents here, okay? Talents is plural, okay? Most known for her 1979 historical novel Sally Hemings and the constantly inspired dash limited to the realm of prose. Okay. The artistic talents. We're talking about the talents here. Okay. This is a hard difficulty question. Why? Because the SAT people wanted us to get confused with the subject here. That is the subject talents, or it is the novel. Okay. So don't be confused here because the subject is talents. Okay. So now let's see our answer choice. That artistic talents dash limited to the realm of prose. Okay. Hasn't been stands for a singular, and we don't have a singular here, we have a plural here, so this is wrong. Wasn't, the artistic talents wasn't, this is also for singular, so this is wrong. Okay, the artistic talents isn't, okay, the artistic talents isn't, this is also for singular here, so this is wrong. The artistic talents aren't, yes, this is correct because this is for a plural word. Okay. Alright guys, we finally reached the last type, and please don't forget to subscribe. Alright, so type 7 is clauses. So there are basically three main type of clauses: independent clause, dependent clause, and non-essential clause. We are already familiar with the independent and dependent clause. So that independent clause are the ones which make sense on their own, which have subject, verb, and object, whereas dependent clause are the opposite. And non-essential clauses are the clauses which are not really, it's self-explanatory, which are not essential for a sentence to like provide full explanation. All right, so and remember that these type of clauses are always surrounded by adjacent commas or dashes. It can't be surrounded by a comma and a dash, or a dash and a comma. It can only be surrounded by two commas or dashes. All right, so let's see. Alright guys, one important thing I want to tell you, that this video is gonna end here. Why? Because this type is not really joined like a part of SAT grammar section. So yeah, so it's like half of grammar and half of reading. So yeah, so I'm gonna make a separate video for this. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and please comment down below the type of content you want me to make, the type of videos related to SAT you want me to make, and see you in the next video.